Yo!
Don't give it up, Luffy. Don't give it up, Solo. Don't give it up, Nami. Don't give it up.
Hey, what's happening, everyone? William Craddock here with Will to Win Gaming. It's been a while since I got to do kind of a solo video, and I've got a lot to talk about this week. So to break it down, I'm going to cover a few things in this video. One is going to be achieving your goals and how to go about that. I did achieve one of my major goals in One Piece this week, and I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of the first week of the starter deck 10 decks, mainly what I'm going to play, and I'm going to show you a deck list, kind of give you some insight to why I'm playing some of the cards I'm playing, and hopefully you enjoy it. So, getting into the video, first let's talk about achieving your goals. You know, One Piece has been out for close to a year now, and me as a competitive player, I have set a lot of goals for myself, but to me, it's important to take them one at a time. Like, I generally, when I was starting out, had smaller goals than what I have now. I think that's important to kind of achieve all your goals. So just, you know, this may be chronologically a little out of order because my memory is not what it was, 10 years ago, but just to give you some examples, when I first went to the very first Treasure Cup I played, which was Vegas in February, I believe, my goal was simply to do my best. Which, hey, first tournament, I think that's what anyone can, hope for. I ended up making top 16 and losing in top 16. And, it's kind of a heartbreak, and I know a lot of people get, tilted or upset, but I was just like, you know what? I have a new goal, right? Like, I didn't suck. I made top 16. My new goal now is to win a Serial Luffy. My very next event, I believe, was a Texas event. I didn't even make top 64. All right, I just got crushed. And so, again, I was thinking to myself, I'm further from my goal now, and I felt like my thinking about One Piece was stagnant. Like, how I was approaching the game had already stagnated between that first event and this new event, so now I'm just trying to change my thinking and how I approach the game. And I think the next event I really remember after this was the first Peoria I went to, and I believe it was OPO2, and I was playing Blue Dofi, and again I made top 16. I'm still chasing my first Serial Luffy. In top 16, I lose again, my very first match, so I don't get a Serial Luffy. I'm a little bit deflated at this point, but I was much happier with how I approached the tournament, how I approached the game in general. I was thinking, my thinking hadn't stagnated. I was actually thinking about the game, ways to improve. And I actually had a new goal after that event to add to my list. It was, first it was going to be win Serial Luffy, now I added, I want to be as good as Cross AI. Right, he's the one who won that event. I want to be as good as this guy. And again, after that, the next event I really remember, like I said, this might be out of order, was finally I was playing Film Kid in an online event. And I was playing Film Kid out of just kind of some kind of, I don't know if it was frustration, but I thought it was good, and it was an unknown quantity at that point. But I didn't think it was real good, and I just kind of wanted to play it, And I ended up winning my first Serial Luffy with the Film Kit deck, which I was like, okay, goal achieved, Serial Luffy, cross it off. Now we're chasing Cross AI, right? And I'm not sure what he's done to this point, but that's still my goal. I have the one goal, now I'm chasing Cross, and I want to be as good as him. I want to be a known, commodity in the One Piece world. And everyone knew Cross. Everyone knows Cross now, right? So, the next event I remember, and this may actually have been before the Film Kid, I'm pretty sure I was playing Whitebeard in a large Texas regional, and I didn't make day 2. I just got crushed. I remember Eric Quintana crushing me. Obviously, he's good. Obviously, he crushes everybody. But I specifically remember him crushing me after the lunch break. So, and I think after that, the online was the Film Kid. The next event I remember was we're back to Peoria, and I was playing Blue Dofi. So this is round 2, right? This is redemption time. And this one, I end up going X1. It was a small event, 256, I think, was the cap. And we ended up getting like 243. So I ended up winning a serial Luffy. That's my second one. But still, you know, I'm chasing cross AI. Like now it's like, this is, I already got my one goal, right? Like a serial Luffy's nice, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But I'm still chasing cross, so I still think like, this guy's just like way better than me, right? The next event I can remember, and guys, I play a lot of events, so sorry, was Gen Con. And Gen Con, of course, was OP3? Oh, wait, no. I got one before this. My bad. The next event I remember was playing OP3, and I was playing Kuro. And I don't know what possessed me to try Kuro, but I found myself, at one point, I was 7-0. I was so excited. Like, because I was just taking this deck, and, you know, we just tested a little, you know, we worked it, we figured out a bunch of matchups. And I was really hyped. I was like, man, if I can make a top with Kuro, that's huge. I ended up 7-0, and then I lost my next two. I lost to John Wynn in round 8 on Katakuri, and then I think my last round I lost to Whitebeard. I'm not sure who it was. But, again, you know, I've had some success at this point, but I was still a little deflated. Just because, you know, there's a lot of hype, right? I was playing Kuro, and I was doing well, and there's a lot of hype. Going to Gen Con, I did very poorly. So I was coming off like a, you know, I ended up top 16 that event with Kuro, by the way. But, which is great. But I still, you know, it's not what I was after. I'm still looking to, like, improve. Gen Con, I did really horrible. I was feeling bad. And then, fast forward, I find myself at Knoxville playing the Whitebeard deck that I built for Dee Dee, and she had previously top 8'd Tulsa with it. So I was very confident in my build. I was very confident in my play at this point. I think, like, this is really, like, Knoxville was the day, like, the days leading up to Knoxville is when I really felt like I was starting to think outside the box of One Piece. I was really thinking, like, I know how to win every matchup, given whether I'm going first, going second. And I felt it really showed at Knoxville. When I was playing the Whitebeard mirrors, which I ended up playing 6 over the course of the tournament, I felt very comfortable going first or second. And I know, you know, several Whitebeards are always like, oh, I'll go second. And then they're like, you know, if they go second, they lose. It's usually, oh, they didn't have this or this. If, you know, I go second, I win. It's usually like, oh, of course you won. You went second, right? Like, I just eliminated that thinking. Like, that thinking is never good. It's never helped you improve. And it really showed to me, like, I could see it in the matches I played. Like, I understood how to play this mirror. It's funny because the winner boxes, I played against Chris Sock, and he just crushed me. And, it was a good game. He crushed me. And that was, like, the day before, right? Like, that was, like, the side events. And it really just kind of, like, I don't know what it was. That, I guess it's called, like, a canon event. Like, that just really, like, kickstarted my thinking. And then, yeah, so all day, Saturday, Whitebeard mirrors, I was good. Sunday, the top cuts, I played a first round Whitebeard mirror, felt very comfortable. Top 16, I played Katakuri. Of course, that match was not favorable for Katakuri. I felt super comfortable. That was like an easy 2-0 for me. And going to top 8, I play no one in the top 8 because he drops to go 6 flags, which is funny. But top 4, who do you think I get? I get Cross AI. We have some good games, but I finally achieved another one of my goals, in that I beat Cross in a top 4 of a major event, and it kind of just, all right, now I've got another Luffy under my belt, and I beat Cross. So now I have no goals on my list, and unfortunately I do end up losing in the finals in Knoxville, but I was very happy with how I played the match at the end, even if I know a lot of people talk about, like, me going first against Zoro playing Whitebeard, which is interesting, and I actually have another, little story about that get to in a second. But for the most part, at Knoxville, it's also when I first learned about the limitless leaderboard, right? And I heard they use it a lot for Pokemon, and they're doing it for One Piece, so I go check it out. Who do I see at the top of that? It's like Jackson Wong and Cross AI, and then Richard Yam. There's all just like insane players at the top. So my next goal is, what I want to be number one, right? Like that should be your goal. But, I start small, and I want to be number one on the Limitless leaderboard. And it may be just kind of this arbitrary point system, but to me, it shows consistency. Like, that's what it's all about to me in card games is consistency. I can't really teach how to win an event, but I can teach you how to be consistent and do well at every event you play at. And so that was my next goal. And, I wasn't, after Knoxville, I was pretty close. I think I was like top 4, top 5. And then moving on, the next event, sure enough, we go to, again, Dallas, Texas. And I start 6-0, round 7. I play Jackson Long, who, of course, is widely considered the GOAT of the, and you should, because he's just insane. Like, that guy is just an insane player. And we had this mini conversation where he's playing Zoro and I'm playing Whitebeard, and I win the dice roll, and I'm like, I'll go first. And he's like, that's so weird. Every other Whitebeard I played against has gone second. I'm like, well, did you beat them? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And to me, I'm not knocking people's play style. Like, everyone plays different. But to me, like I said, it's all about, like, thinking on a little bit above what's the known quantity. Like, the known quantity is just go second with Whitebeard so you can go, Atmos and the Thatch. But, like, to me, like, the Zoro matchup wasn't played that way. This is my thinking. I didn't like that's how I think the Zoro match is supposed to be played that way. And I ended up beating Jackson. And then going in round 8, I got deck checked. There was an unfortunate incident where, and this is funny because in the last 4 tournaments, I'd submitted the same deck. And I've been deck checked in every tournament, right? Because I had a string of tops. So I got deck checked in every single event, and they were all fine. But apparently, instead of submitting the correct list, I was wrong about 4 of the 2Ks, like the Brooks versus the tournament pack Luffy. So I ended up getting game loss there. And I told the TO, like, hey, look, it's not your fault. There's no hard feelings. I, of course, appealed it because I was like, look, I played this list for 4 weeks. It hasn't changed. But like I said, no hard feelings with TO. They're doing the job. Judge doing the job. So that's what I said. I ended up going X1 that event for 3rd place. And, of course, there's another person who's chasing number 1. That was Eric Quintana. And he's insane. I've never beat him in a tournament. And after that event, I think I'm like 3 points behind him, 3 or 4 points behind him. And he's number 1, I'm number 2. Because he ends up top 8 that event himself. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be... This is like a thrill for me. Because, like, there's this person and he's... he's in Texas, so he's close to where I live. So we've seen each other at events. And it's just like, I love having someone who I can just battle against, right? I love someone I can just like, this is the person I'm chasing now, is Eric Quintana. Because he's beat me twice in events. He's really good. He's number 1. And then come to last week's event where Whitebeard's banned. You have a lot more bans. You have the Dan, you have Nami, you have the Marco restriction. And there's a lot of stuff going around Facebook about, Whitebeard players are washed. I look at my little Limitless things like, my last 6 tops for Whitebeard. But of course, I can't play Whitebeard, so I land on Kinemon. That's something I'm comfortable with. I think Kinemon has a pretty, like, even matchup spread. I don't think he, like, really crushes anything. I feel like it's just kind of good against, kind of okay against everything. And I end up I lose round 1, and I'm like, shit, right? Like, that sucks. I end up bringing it back to 7-1. And I'm like, well, I have to win here, or I won't make top 16 because I lose round 1. So I think my breaks are crappy. I end up losing for 7-2, but to my surprise, top 16. Right? My tiebreakers were kind of insane for losing round 1. I was a little shocked, but my opponents all did pretty well. And I'm not saying I'm happy that Eric didn't do well. I think he went X2 himself, but he didn't crack top 16. So lo and behold, come a day later, I get 6 points. Something super low because this is online. But it's good enough to put me to the number 1 spot. So I'm like, it may seem minor to a lot of people. A lot of people play this game more casually. But to me, it's like, look, this is another goal I achieved, right? Game hasn't been out a year. I've achieved all my goals. I'm really happy. It may be a nerdy thing, but yeah, and it probably won't last long either because I've got Eric behind me, there's Jackson's close. Nicky Goldman, who's also just, his conversion rate is incredible. Like, that dude's just a machine. Like, I don't think it's going to be like I'm going to be at the top forever. But I made it to where I want to go. I got another goal. Now I have my next goal set. I'm going to keep those to myself because I don't, because some of them may be a little lofty, so I don't want to say anything. But my next goals are set. One of them is I want to win a 3v3. I'll give you that one. So I do have a 3v3 coming up with Joshua Graham and my fiance Dee Dee. So that's like one of the goals. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, just all you gotta do is be consistent and focus, and don't get disheartened. Because I did, before my huge string of tops, which I think it was like 5 in a row, I had several tournaments where I didn't even crack top 64. Right, so like you can't get disheartened. You just gotta try your best. And yeah, that's it on achieving my goals. Now, let's get into the start at 10 or shrink. This is what I've been working with for the most part. I'll make sure my camera's not covering in cards this time. I love this Kaido deck. When you look at these purple decks, I see just huge variations. Right, I just see huge changes in what the Kaido decks look like, and everyone's got their own thing. Like, oh, I want to look like this. I want to look like this. And this is what I landed on, right? And I do have, I don't know, what do you want to call them, justifications, or I've chosen to play, let's say, like Miss All Sunday over Magellan. So I think Magellan's more of a tempo card and belongs in something like the Magellan deck. Where for us, Miss All Sunday is not only ramp, it gets you to your 9 and 10 Kaido quicker. It draws cards, right? And in the late game, it also kind of, if you're on, 9, 10 Dawn, it comes out of your life. It's actually just it's a trigger that draws you a card instead of costs you a card. It's not like a Katakuri trigger. Yeah, you Dawn -2, you go to 7 Dawn, it comes in, you go to 8 Dawn, you draw a card, and on your 10 Dawn turn, you're on 10 Dawn. So it's a really no cost. So she's great out of life. She's great on curve. Of course, Kaido's a go first deck. Wire's another one I kind of landed on. Just for the effect. Like, this could easily be the 2 for 3 purple blocker or anything else, really. This is kind of a flex slot for me. It's just the effect can be so strong when you have, redundant Wrath Kaidos are bad. Redundant Islands are bad. Sometimes redundant Kings are bad, although not as often. You don't necessarily always have the Queen, so this is just kind of like a bit of a backup to the Queen. And it, and realistically, it filters cards. So if you don't have your Island on curve, and you still want Island, like, you can play Island later in the game. It's still good. Then, you play Wire into Queen, and all of a sudden, you're drawing 3 cards, and that might get you quicker to your Island, right? Besides that, the only other tech slot I really have is Hell's Judgment. There has been an uprising of, like, just, weenie decks. Like, a lot of the Dofi decks are going more low to the ground. They're playing a lot of 3 for 5K. It's much more aggressive. So I opted for the Hell's Judgment over something like the purple 0 discard a card for 3K event. Also, it kind of has some synergy with the Wire, because it is once per turn, not just your turn. So if you Hell's Judgment, you get to filter a card. Of course, the Bagua, counter power, get some Dawn. And other than that, it's a pretty stock deck. 12 2Ks, Islands, of course, and the fatty Boom Booms. You'll notice I don't have the 7-drop Kid, and it's not, I think that card's amazing. I think it is. I just don't think the home is Kaido. I think it's much more home in a Magellan deck. I don't think it's at home in Kaido, because this is where Kaido lives and breathes. It uses these two to gap the mid game and lives and breathes with these big fatty Boom Booms, right? So, like, I still know if the Kid is where you want to be, and I also have problems with, let's say, like, this is the flex slot. You cut the wires, you can play the Kids. Well, now it's just like I have so much non-counter, right? And I have only one way to filter it. It's really painful. The Law is another one I'm kind of up in the air about. For me, it's kind of like maybe like a week 1 good card, but then when people start learning, like, okay, how to play around it a lot easier, it's like, I'll just counter out 1 attack earlier, and I'll sit on 6 cards forever. I think its stock is going to go down. You can't always just counter out. You don't always want to just counter out. Sometimes you need a certain combo piece or card piece. You're just looking for something. And, although people probably won't think about this, they're like, oh, I'm just going to get 2 cards out of their hand. Dawn -1 in the early game is actually a real cost, especially if your deck is, if you're not playing something like the Island, like Dawn -1 is actually a real cost. Like that, people might not see it over the course, in the early game, they might not understand it, but over the course of a whole game, like a Dawn -1 could lose, it could keep you from making 2 plays in turn. It could keep you from making 2 7K attacks. So that's a real cost I don't think people are going to be mindful of. So you, as a person, might be like, well, I'm going to just have 7 cards and maybe try to bait out the law. Maybe I want them to play that so they're on 4 Dawn, or on, 6 Dawn next turn instead of 7. So that's just something to consider. Kaido is one of the decks I'm looking at for the week 1 Star Deck 10, because it's an oldie but a goodie, right? I just love everything about this deck for the most part. Yeah, I think that's going to be today's video. I know some people ask me about Kinemon. If I get enough people asking, I might do a Kinemon guide on my Patreon. To me, it's like a very small minority of people asking about Kinemon because it's not a very popular deck. Just because it's just middle of the road, right? It's just kind of like this Kinemon, right? It doesn't do much, but yeah, that's the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll be coming back next week with another video, of course. I got another event this weekend. We're going to Cancun. I like to say thank you to all people that watch the videos, all the people on our Patreon, our Discord. I appreciate all the support. I'm going to try my best to stay number 1 as long as I can, but next tournament I might drop to like number 3 or 4. It just depends how good, the people that are right, it's a very close race to the top, and they're all incredible players. Like, the people in the top 20, you just look at the names, you're like, you just see these people every week topping events. So it's a list that's going to change a lot, but for the most part, I am happy to achieve my goal, and for at least this week, I will be able to boast that I'm number 1 in I think it's just all their English-speaking region. I think that's LatAm, Europe, Australia. I don't actually know, but I think so. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us, on YouTube. Go ahead and check out our Discord. It's free to join. If you want to support us, check out our Patreon. And yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks, everyone.